This makes me want to peel my skin off. If this album had a scent, it would be the inside of a rubber Halloween mask. This is your brain on low-budget Japanese PS2 games. Man, this kind of music makes me eat my hands. When you take 3 Flintstones vitamin gummies in one day. Welcome to the most brutal album I've ever heard. Wolf Girl.
Yeah!
Beginning in 2013, Matt Stevenson's electronic music project Machine Girl would hit the internet exploring drum and bass, breakcore, techno, and a bunch of other branches of hard-hitting electronic music. Machine Girl would stand out with a unique sound that boasted a chaotic and catastrophic presence. This, all paired with album covers of pure chaos, would deliver an overall package similar to what I would imagine to be the experience of having a brain freeze in the middle of a hectic and loud Japanese arcade. Stevenson first came up with the idea of Machine Girl in 2010, after watching the Japanese action shock film of the same name, The Machine Girl, a story that focuses on a girl with a makeshift machine gun as a hand who vows to get revenge after her brother was killed by the Yakuza. Machine Girl would stick out with their bombastic hardcore breaks and neon glowing moods throughout 5 studio albums and a handful of compilations. In 2018, Stevenson would be joined by percussionist Sean Kelly, the two going all the way back to the 8th grade where they would perform together frequently. In Machine Girl's interview with WNYU, the whole concept of the project really began to feel like a band to Stevenson with the addition of live drums and added an incredibly energetic element to performances in general, something akin to the wild rodeo of Zach Hill and how he contributes to the vicious energy seen in a Death Grips performance, an essential piece to that system as well. While there are many projects under the belt of Machine Girl that are worth exploring and you should definitely check out, none has ever really hit me or stuck onto me as hard as the Machine Girl debut album from 2014, Wolf Girl. I've been requested to check this album out countless times from friends and all of y'all in the comments of my videos, and I finally ended up giving a listen to it back in the fall of 2020, and after one listen, I was hooked. I can't believe I waited so long on this thing. It straight up felt like some jack dude broke down my door, threw me to the ground, and stuck a 2-foot-long syringe of adrenaline in my arm. This thing is wicked. Today, I want to break this album down with you and explore what makes this project so damn great. This is the most brutal album I've ever heard, Wolf Girl. If this is your first time here at the channel and you love exploring fascinating music, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn all notifications on. I love doing deep dives into obscure music or albums that lay waiting to be found throughout the internet, and I hope to have you here for our next adventure. Make yourself at home and always feel free to let me know in the comments below of any other sounds I should explore for a future video. Originally released on February 17th, 2014 and further popularized by the Dread Collective release towards the end of 2017, Wolf Girl would be the first of the 5 studio albums. As we progress through the Machine Girl discography, you can see the evolution in production quality from Stevenson, who has also admitted that certain tracks from Wolf Girl feel unfinished to them. I think certain debut albums from beloved artists or bands can easily fall into this first album syndrome. There's an appreciation to be had in the charm of an earlier piece of work from a creator, and many times we find fans always talking about or returning to that first release, despite whatever quality may have came out in the future. Wolf Girl is definitely one of those releases. It's inconsistent at times, there's no doubt, and certain tracks do feel a bit more developed than others, but there's a beauty in this inconsistency which constantly adds and subtracts to the topsy-turvy frenzy you'll experience throughout this track list. The first thing I want to talk about today, though, before we even get into the music itself, is the cover artwork. This factor is what got me to click in the first place. It's what drew me to the project, and I'm sure this was also the case for many of you who have checked this thing out before as well. There's something about everything going on here, from the bright white and neon yellow Japanese kanji to the vicious wolf popping out from a pitch black background that is just so enticing. And once you get going into the music itself, I don't think I've ever seen an album cover that has replicated the attitude of the sound so perfectly well. All of the elements in the artwork go together perfectly with one another. It's just straight up delicious. I don't know how else to put it. The project contains 13 tracks and an additional 3 bonus tracks, Stevenson bouncing each track off of the other by exploring a diverse palette of genres. You got house, techno, juke, ambient, jungle, all of this with a strong emphasis on hitting you with a pulverizing bass and sub bass. These tracks are numbing and present a sort of end-of-the-world rave with its pure power. We're introduced to this explosiveness right off the get-go. The album opens up with a small introductory track titled MG1, which really sets the mood well. It's the moment you're going up to that first drop on a roller coaster. A slowed down and delayed retexturizing of the ending theme from Mega Man 2 is paired with different dialogue samples from the Machine Girl film.
No matter what happens, though, I promise that I'll protect you.
Before you know it, this piercing noise creeps up and washes out the reverb-filled haven from those opening seconds, which all just explodes into the first real track off of the album, Ionic Funk 20XXX Battle Music. The first time I heard this happen, the first time I listened to this album, I was like, yeah, this is what I'm looking for. The track erupts with this distorted and crushing kick and progressively adds more drums, samples, sirens, and other crazy noises throughout its runtime. It's arguably my favorite track on the album. I think the surprise I had when listening to that transition during the first run-through of this album, for me, it just chiseled this thing as one of the bigger beasts on the album. And literally, this track is a beast. It's as if an army of animatronics stormed the streets of Tokyo. The metallic pieces that build them up reflecting all of the neon lights from the surrounding buildings into a billion different directions. Yeah. For a song that should give me a migraine, I dig it a lot. The next track, track number 3, Crystal URL Cyber Palace Mix, you gotta love the track names on this thing, continues this energy, but in a more playful sort of way. Here we get a blend of zany and jumpy sounds, musical popcorn if you may, and that offbeat breakdown that comes in the middle of the song, oh my god, so damn tasty. And so many times when I revisit this album, I just forget when it's about to pop up, and when it does, it gets me every single time. This all leads into Ginger Claps, which just by this point showcases the mercilessness of this album, especially in the beginning of it. You signed up for this, and Machine Girl is just taking you for that ride. That non-stop barrage of crashing cymbals and snare rolls is brutal and head-rocking. Ghost, which comes up next, keeps that high energy tempo, but tones things down a bit in regards to the intensity. It's lighthearted, floaty, and fun, and feels like a bonus level after completing the first 10 or so minutes of the album. The remix of Undercover Investigator is similar, but gets a bit more vicious again towards the end. The clunky sort of hip-hop instrumental Out by 16 Dead on the Scene comes on right after this. Another track I love on here, it's this really clunky mess of samples just being thrown at one another, all while the drums battle it out in the background. And some of the samples on here are used as like drum fills in a way, which is an idea I absolutely adore. Artists like Machine Girl or Death's Dynamic Shroud, just to name another example, do this quite a bit, and it tickles your stomach every time. After this point, the album, in my opinion, begins to drop off a little bit. Everything resorts to this non-stop driving arcade game overdose feel, which is still fun, don't get me wrong, but I really come to this thing for the wickedness seen throughout the earlier stages of the album. The last couple of tracks don't really feel like they were played with as much, and like I said earlier, Stevenson has stated that it is a bit incomplete towards the end. Those first couple of tracks are so unique and made in such a jittery way, and those last tracks just feel like some Dance Dance Revolution tracks you've burnt to a CD that you're listening to in a getaway car after robbing some gigantic diamond from a jewelry store in the Ridge Racer universe. That was a mouthful, what the hell. On the other hand, though, I like to look at the latter or second half of the album as a cool down from the craziness in the beginning. Perhaps the first part of the album was the actual act of the robbery itself, and when you look at it that way, it does give the album a bit more cohesion. Y'all know me, I love building little scenarios in my head for albums I listen to, and something like Wolf Girl is just destined for that treatment. If you need a shock or a kickstart, Wolf Girl is 100% what the doctor ordered. It's a great way to get into the Machine Girl discography, a discography I'm still going through now, and I know many people throw the term brutal around when discussing metal or noise albums or whatnot, but that word really is the perfect word to describe the onslaught of sounds present throughout this album. The album is aggressive and feeds everything through this gritty and distorted production. While it can feel muddy at times and separated from the second half, I think that texture only adds to the velocity of it all, making it somehow work in the end. Wolf Girl is undeniably a stellar and fun time. Let me know what you think of this album and or any other albums or artists I should check out for a future video on the channel. If you want to help support the channel and get access to a bunch of cool rewards like our patron exclusive Discord server Club Chennington, head on over to my Patreon page. I will leave a link in the description below. Until next time, thank you so much for spending some time here with me today. I cannot wait for our next adventure into sound. We will talk soon. Much love, your boy, Pad Chennington.